We've been having some fun off camera here. So anyway, we're here to share with you some things. We've got our buddy Doug Jones here who's going to cover a really important topic that I think you're going to like. I think many of you have not seen him cover this before. He's got something to share with you that'll help you get through some of the challenges that all of us go through whenever we're building a business. I got to go to make Doug the host. You are the host with the most.
Okay.
There you go.
So, guys, what this talk is about, it's not very long, but it's really important. It's about mindset, because the reality is this game is won between the ears. Can you imagine that anybody who understands what we have would not want the product? And they may not be able to afford it, but they'd want it. I've never had anybody say, no, I don't want it. I've had people say, no, it's not in the budget right now or whatever. But if people take the time to really understand it, they want it. So the game here is between our ears. And you have to realize that at any given time, most people are not going to be ready to buy or not ready to join. And so it's never no forever. It's only no for now, as long as you're pleasant and not a pest, right? And so you've got to focus on the wins and not worry about the people that aren't ready right now. So how to do that? It's much easier to say that than it is to do it. So what I want to talk about tonight is how you can change your mind about you. How you can change your mind about you. This is really important because you were born to win, but to be a winner, you have to use the tools that God gave us. You have to plan to win, prepare to win, and expect to win. And expecting to win is probably one of the most important things. So I think I'm not in my slideshow. There we go. Now it's in the slideshow.
There we go.
So, everybody probably knows who Vince Lombardi was. If there's some who don't, he was one of the, probably at the time, the most famous football coach in America. He went to the Green Bay Packers and created a dynasty from a lousy team when he got there. And his very first speech to the team when they gathered around him was, gentlemen, this is a football. So he's all about the basics. But he said that everyone has a will to win, but very few have the will to prepare to win. And that's a mindset thing. You have to see yourself winning, because as Dennis Waitley said, Dennis Waitley is a very famous psychologist who debriefed the POWs coming back from Vietnam, debriefed the astronauts. Really smart guy. I've heard him speak a number of times. He said, we don't always get what we want in life, but we usually get what we expect. So the question then becomes, if you get what you expect, why? Why do you get what you expect? And that goes all the way back to the Bible, which says, without a vision, in Proverbs 29:18, without a vision, the people will perish. And so the reason the people will perish without a vision is because of lack of belief in their future, right? And so just like Waitley said, if you expect something good, you will work for something good. You will look for ways to make that thing happen. If you don't expect it, you won't work for it, and you won't look for ways to make it happen. So a powerful personal vision that you believe in, that's the key part, you believe in, is critical to success in business. So the reason why is because if we don't have a clear vision of our desired future, that's the benefits that we get from whatever endeavor we're engaged in, and a positive expectation to achieve those benefits, then we'll lack the will to prepare to win and the will to persist through the failures, frustrations, and problems that winners always have to overcome on their way to success and fulfillment. You cannot show me anybody who's been a big winner in anything who hasn't failed a lot, right? Michael Jordan, probably the all-time best basketball player ever, was cut from his high school team. Cut, Michael Jordan. So guys, but he didn't quit because he had the vision. So he overcame that and did what he needed to do to get back on track. So that's the point of a vision. You want to begin, Stephen Covey said it very well. He said, you want to begin with the end in mind. And if you begin with the end in mind, that is the vision. And that vision is not just a goal. That vision is actually a full 3D Technicolor movie with Dolby surround sound of you seeing your future having achieved whatever it is you're going for. That's a vision. That's quite different than a goal. So it's multisensory. It's seeing yourself in the present 3 years from now or 5 years from now enjoying the fruits of whatever you've been working for the last 5 years. That's a vision. So that vision is what will give you the will to prepare to win and the will to persist through the failures, frustrations, and problems. Because guys, believe it or not, that actually Rick Walrap here, Dr. Rick, has days he doesn't feel like doing this. And I have days I don't feel like doing this. What drives us to do what we need to do, even though we don't feel like doing it, is we've been there. We've tasted it, so we know that it's worth it. Some of you are hoping it's worth it, but you haven't tasted it yet. I'm telling you, by creating a powerful personal vision, you can taste it so that you will have that same drive. Because you can smell it, you can taste it, you can hear it, you can see it if you create that multisensory vision. And I'm not going to leave you without telling you how to do that. But I want to tell you why first. Here's why having a compelling personal vision is critical. Because when you start a new business or get married or buy a new home or do anything that's big and new, it requires change. And whenever we make a major change in our lives, we experience an emotional roller coaster. Guys, this will happen to 100% of people who are human. So if that's you, raise your hand if you're human, right where you are. And if your hand is up, if you're human, this will happen to you. It won't happen to most of us. It will happen to all of us. So you just have to be prepared for it. If you're prepared for it, it's not that big a deal. If you're not prepared for it, it is a big deal, as I'll show you. So a couple of psychologists called Don Kelly and Daryl Connor described this phenomenon in a paper called The Emotional Cycle of Change. And regardless of the change you choose, you're going to experience the five stages of this cycle because you are human. It's the way we're wired. So here are the 5 stages. The first is uninformed optimism, followed by informed pessimism, which is followed by the valley of despair. That's where most people quit. Followed by informed optimism, followed by success and fulfillment. So let's see what that looks like. Here's the cycle in a graph. Stage 1 is uninformed optimism. That's when you first get started and you sign up for this business or any other business, or you get married or you buy a new house, whatever it is, new job. You have this picture of how great it is. But then, if it's a new house, you start to see the cracks in the foundation. You realize you got to make some investments in fixing the water heater or whatever, So it's not quite as good. And that's when that emotional state starts down. And you start to see the problems. In a business like ours, people say no. Most people will say no. Most people will not say yes. The good news is if you do this correctly over and over again, every once in a while it works, and that's all you need, really. So you have to stay optimistic through that, but you won't. You will go down below this dotted line, which is the 0 line on your emotional state. And you will fall from optimism into pessimism, which is stage 2. That's finding out how many people do I have to talk to, really, before I get enough yeses? And how many yeses do I have to get before somebody actually takes the ball and runs with it? That all those things are going through your mind. Can I really do this? After you've been at it for a month and nothing's happening. And usually nothing's happening because you're focused on the problems and you're not just talking to more people. But this is normal. This happens. And then you get to the stage 3, the bottom, the nadir of this curve, which the authors describe as the valley of despair. And guys, that's where most people quit. So let's take this a piece at a time and see what's going on. So stage 1 is uninformed optimism. That's when you see all the benefits of change, that you've not yet seen the cost of the change. And that's where your optimism is coming from. Unfortunately, that stage doesn't last very long, because once you get engaged in this business or anything else for that matter, then you begin to find the problems, right? And so the benefits start to look further away, and you're seeing the cost of the change for the first time. And you're beginning to have doubts about your ability to do this. And so that's normal. If you're feeling that way, welcome to the club. You're a human. Then you get down to this valley of despair down at the bottom. Oh, and this is the big one, is the pain of this, is the embarrassment or whatever. Is it really worth, can I really achieve something here that's worth all that? And can I really do that? So then comes the valley of despair. And in the valley of despair, there's 3 things you need to do in order to get past this low point in your emotions. You have to understand that this is normal. That's why we're doing this training, because that way when this happens to you, you can say, oh yeah, Doug said this would happen. because it will. It will happen to you. It happens to me on a regular basis. And I acknowledge it and move past it. So you have to build your knowledge and belief, because this low point right here, this low point at stage 3 will not go below the level of your knowledge and belief. And so building your own knowledge about the products, about the business, and your belief in it is an antidote to how low that low will go. And then you have to have a powerful personal vision, so you see why it's worth it to get through this stage of pessimism and negativity in your mind, because it'll feel pretty negative in your mind when you're in there. So then you begin to know your numbers. Informed optimism begins when you see the benefits, and now you know the cost because you know your numbers. You know how many people you have to talk to on average. If you've talked to 100 or 200 people, you have pretty good, if you keep track, you'll have a pretty good idea of how many do I have to talk to recruit one, and how many do I have to recruit in order to get one who does something, and how many who do something do I have to recruit in order to get a leg that has a leader in it. And so that process is important, because measurement, when you know your numbers, then what happens, guys, is once you've done this enough and you know your numbers, you can look in a mirror and say the magic words. I know my numbers. This is what I have to do. Am I willing to do this? Because when you have control of your numbers, when you know how many you have to talk to get certain results, then it's a question of, will I talk to that many? And how do I find them? And all those things. So once you're focused on numbers that you know, and the bigger the numbers you work, the more your numbers will become an average that you can rely on. Once you know that, then it's very exciting, because you can look in that mirror and say, here's the numbers. I'm willing to work those numbers. And once you know your numbers, if your numbers are correct and you're willing to work those numbers, guess what? Success and fulfillment are inevitable. Inevitable. If you know your numbers and your numbers are right and you're willing to work those numbers, then you cannot fail. Isn't that refreshing to know? So you will go through all these stages. You're going to go through that informed optimism when you first start. You'll then get negative a little bit. It might be a lot, but just realize it's normal and just push through it. And then you can get to the other side, begin to learn what your numbers are. And those numbers will not get worse. The more you do it, unless you just don't pay attention, you'll get better at it all the time. So you want to prepare your client for the next major emotional event while they're still in a rational state of mind. This was the very best thing that a sales manager ever told me in my entire career, because I was in the mortgage business, and people buying houses are very emotional. And so that served me very well. But you know what? It's really important to prepare yourself for the next major emotional event while you are still in a rational state of mind. So here's how you prepare you for the emotional cycle of change. Your compelling personal vision is what's going to get you through that valley of despair. You've got to have it. And so the first step in creating breakthrough results with any new endeavor or any new relationship is to craft a compelling personal vision of your future. And as I said, that vision needs to be multisensory, not just a written goal. You've got to see it and smell it and taste it in your mind's eye in Technicolor, right? And so without a compelling personal vision that you keep in front of yourself daily, reminding yourself daily why it is you're doing this, then there's a good chance you won't make it through the valley of despair, and you won't go on to success and fulfillment. So that's how important this is. So the question then becomes, so how do you do it? How do you create this vision? Well, the best personal visions, guys, are big ones. Nothing great's ever accomplished without being preceded by a big vision. So your personal vision should be big enough that it makes you feel at least a little bit uncomfortable. Also, your goal should have so much emotional involvement that when you really fully visualize it, it makes you cry. If your why doesn't make you cry, it's not big enough. So whether you believe, Henry Ford said, whether you believe you can do a thing or not, you're right. So the real question is, why am I going to prepare myself by going through all this work to prepare this vision? I mean, getting a really crystal clear vision of where you want to be in the future is work. Don't kid yourself. It's not something you sit down and do in 10 minutes, but it's worth it, because without seeing it, you can't believe it. So the greatest discovery of the 20th century, according to William James, who's the father of American psychology, is that our attitude of mind determines our quality of life, not our circumstances. Put another way, what he was saying is the greatest discovery of the 20th century is we can literally change the way we live by changing the way we think about ourselves. We can change the way we live by changing the way we think about ourselves. And Stephen Covey in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People said all things are created twice, first mentally and then physically. You know, any building is designed before it's built. Any car is designed before it's built. Any business is designed before it's built. So the key to creativity is to begin with the end in mind, with a vision and a blueprint of the desired result. So once you have the vision, then you can reverse engineer that to say, in order to get to this, where do I have to be one step before that? And that's how you reverse engineer the vision into a set of goals and benchmarks. So you need to begin with the end in mind, have that crystal clear vision, and then work backwards to say, what do I have to do in 2 years to be on track for that 3-year goal? Where do I have to be in 1 year to be on track for the 2-year goal? Where do I have to be next week to be on track for my 1-year goal, right? You could break that down to a day or an hour, and you should. What Napoleon Hill said, what the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. And that would go for women too. He was not being sexist. He was just talking about mankind. But it's the believe part of it that's important, because if you think about it, you can think of a lot of things, right? But if you really believe that you can achieve it, then what will happen is you will take the actions that lead to it. And you will work the longer hours, and you will go without sleep if necessary. And you will make the sacrifices to get to it because you believe you can do it. If you don't believe you can do it, why would you do all that? You wouldn't, right? And so here's a book that will set you free if you just take the time to buy it and read it. It's about 120 pages, big print, lots of pictures. And you can read it in you could read through it probably in an hour. You don't want to, because you want to take time to ponder every chapter, because you can accelerate your business and your life by changing your mind about how you think about you. And this book is the best manual for literally changing the neurons in your brain so that you think differently about yourself and you think more positively about your possibilities. So once you begin to believe in more possibilities, you'll begin to achieve more. Until you believe it, you will not achieve it. A lot of people say, I'll see it I'll believe it when I see it. That's completely backwards. You will not see it until you believe it, because you won't create it. It won't be there to be seen unless you first believe it. So this book will show you how you can change what you believe about what's possible for you. And if you'll take the time to read it, maybe I would say give it 3 or 4 days and carve out an hour so you can actually think about what you're reading. If you'll do that and then follow his instructions on how to keep that vision in front of you, it'll change your life, guys. Book Mach 2 Starring You. It's by Richard Bliss Brooke. And its subtitle is The Art of Vision and Self-Motivation. So in this book, Brooke tells you exactly how to change your mind about you. And he opens up a very powerful book by telling his own story. This guy used to be a high school dropout who thought that he got this job, a union job in a chicken plucking factory, and he was plucking chickens for a living. And he thought he died and gone to heaven. He thought that was the best it could be. And then he went to a weekend seminar with a couple of friends, and it changed his life. It was about the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and it totally changed his life. He became the CEO of a couple of different network marketing companies. He became the top producer. First, he became the top producer in a company of 250,000 people after being a total, complete failure and having no belief in himself. He just changed his mind about who he was, and he changed the results in his life. And within shorter than 10 years, but I think it was 7 years of going to that seminar, he was on the cover of Success Magazine. And he will share with you his whole journey in this book. It will blow your mind, and it can change your mind about who you are and what you can achieve. So I think that today you should order this book and start reading it. While you're ordering this book, there's 2 other books that we always recommend for anybody in the network marketing industry. If that's you watching this video, There's two other books you want to get. One is also by Richard Brooke. It's called The 4-Year Career. And the other one is the Bible of this industry. It's called GoPro, and the author of that is Eric Worre, Worre. So order 3 books from Amazon. It might cost you $50. It'll change your life. So this one is the one you want to read first, though, because the other ones won't matter unless you believe that you can do much more than you've ever done in your life, which you can. Our industry allows that to happen, but it won't happen for you unless you first believe it. This is how you learn how to believe it for you. So hope that was helpful. Back to you, Rick.